Welcome back to Gator Games Fan TV. The group stages are now officially wrapped up. All four groups are concluded. We know who are the group winners, we know who are the group runners-up, and we know, of course, who will be taking the third place spots, and obviously who now will be exiting the championship. And joined here by Kevin Kennedy from the GA Sports Track Wrap. We're going to be reviewing all the football action, discussing all the games, and everything else that comes with it as well. Kev, I suppose, after this, no more group stage football, no more round robins. It's all going to be straight knockout. I suppose things look a little bit more clear. Probably how we predicted, really. Like, I think most people predicted Dublin to get through as group winners, albeit it was a little bit nervy. Kerry are obviously going through as group winners. Donegal as well. Armagh are obviously there now as well. So overall, I suppose the group stages are done and knockout football awaits now in a week's time.
Yeah, I think we expect everybody who went through, especially in those sort of top four positions, kind of way did. I know Donegal just three again probably was a bit of a question mark over it as well. Who would go through top in that group? But I listened to Kieran McGinn earlier on, and he was saying, these are great because they give you more opportunities. But I mean, we've only lost 4 teams out of it all, so maybe I don't know. I think maybe 2 going through would probably be plenty. Give them an extra week's break, at least give your home advantage just in the quarterfinals to us off it.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. And I think it has been discussed at this stage. Obviously, 2 teams going through. It does probably feel a little bit harsh on, Mayo, for example, who unbeaten, 5 points, very, very good today. They have to go to a preliminary round, but Dublin obviously go straight through to a quarter final. So probably will be something that they do need to look at. But we'll just have a run through some of the groups. We'll start obviously with Group 1. So this is how things finished up as per at GA League tables. Make sure to check them out on Twitter when you get a chance. So Armagh are straight through to the quarterfinals with 5 points. Galway and Derry both progress through to the pre-qualifiers. And as you can see there, Derry 2-7, Westmeath 9 points, Armagh 1-12, Galway 15 points. I suppose we'll start with the game that obviously took place today. Armagh, in the end, digging out a draw, finished 112 to 15 points. Interesting game. Galway, for large parts, I felt like we're in control. They had a 5-point advantage in the second half. They looked fairly comfortable, and then all of a sudden, they conceded 1-3 in the space of about 4 or 5 minutes, and they're on the back foot. But overall, great result for Armagh, and I feel like Galway will be kicking themselves.
Yeah, to be so far ahead and so much control, as you mentioned there, Aaron, you would imagine that Galway will not come away thinking it's been a loss, but you could see the delight on the Armagh players once the final whistle went. They went and they'd want to hug each other and jump in each other's arms. I had to double check to make sure they hadn't won the game, and it was only a draw on it, But that it sort of shows a character to come back from that. Galway looked in full control of that game throughout the game, and it was I would say the high praise, but it was an error by Gleeson, that kick out that caused the goal, and it was totally against the run of play. And that's not to say Armagh played overly bad, because some of them shots they were hitting and the scores in the first half were fantastic. If I had that 2-point D, I'm sure that Armagh would have been well clear at half time. Some of the scores were hitting, just shows you the resilience of that Galway backline. The way they set up is fantastic. So yeah, they'll be disappointed, but I suppose they can take credit in the fact that it was from a short kick out, that was from a mistake as opposed to a system not working.
Yeah, where did it go wrong for Armagh though in the first 55 minutes, up until that goal though? Because they were really struggling. It didn't seem like the same Armagh that played against Derry. They didn't seem to be really taking enough risks. They seemed to be playing within themselves, really. And I felt like Galway always had them on arm's length. And even in the first half, playing obviously with the breeze, you felt like they never really took advantage of it or never really clicked into gear. So for the opening 45, 50 minutes, where did it change, do you think, for Armagh to all of a sudden turn it around?
I think to say Armagh played bad would be wrong, because it would discredit how good Galway actually were in defence. For me, Galway have one of the best defensive setups in the country, and they play this arc with a +2, and it's very, very hard to beat, very, very hard to penetrate. And you could see the amount of times that Armagh were forced to come back along the arc each time, and it's sort of the first half in particular. And it took a couple of good scores from Turbo and Ryan O'Neill to get from 40, 45 yards out, to get them still within touching distance of Armagh. There was never really a goal chance in the first half. But then Aidan Nugent came in, and you seen Aidan Nugent was running, and whenever he actually get turned over inside the Galway 21, but there was 4 players around him at that stage. That sucks Galway to come in tighter and forces Galway to come in a bit tighter. Armagh just had the wrong players playing on that day. Against Galway, you're not after brilliant out and out shooters. You're after workhorses who can drag that plus two across and forward and back and run at men and try and penetrate them. But I think that whenever Nugent came on, he was definitely a handful and he caused them a lot of problems within that. But yeah, look, I don't think if it hadn't been for the mistake, I don't think Armagh would have came back into that. I was very impressed with Galway, throughout the full game. I don't think it was a clinker of a game by any means. Both teams are now through. Galway would be disappointed, but I just think that Armagh, they faced a different challenge than what they did against Derry. And Derry were open at the back; they could go at them and they could kick. They couldn't penetrate that sort of blanket defence that they still couldn't do it against Down, and they didn't do it against Donegal to great effect either as well. So I'm not saying it's their kryptonite. They just don't seem to know how to break it down.
Yeah, like I suppose it is something definitely for them to work on, make no question about that, especially with certain teams left in the competition who could very well set up like that when they come up against them. But like I suppose they did show a lot of resolve at the same time though for Armagh to get themselves back into it, as you said. Like obviously Galway make the mistake, like Leeson makes the mistake, but even after that, like he felt like Armagh really pounced on it, and obviously with the crowd and the energy and everything else, and obviously the point from Stephen Campbell right at the death. So I suppose you do have to give Armagh a lot of credit for that as well.
Yeah, massive credit. You can see where it was Aidan Nugent again who gave the ball to Soupy. It taking those runs on and give it off to Soupy Campbell, and he was in close enough to be able to fist pass it over the bar. They were never in close enough in that first 50 minutes because of the way our Galway had set up. Yeah, look, it shows. It's another shot in the arm for Armagh in terms of a wee booster there. It shows that things weren't going right for them today. They didn't get everything right, but they stuck at it right to the end. And their big men stepped up and they needed to be. And again, that bench coming off, the players coming off that bench caused a huge annoyance for Galway. It was Soupy Campbell running at them, it was Adrian running at them, even the limited time he had, Oisin O'Neill coming in. They just have a breath of talent to come on and maybe change a game there. So they'll take great credit from that.
For Galway, like, I mean, it is a massive kick in the teeth. Like, there's no doubt about that. Like, obviously, to have been in such a great position, 5 points up, closing out the game, obviously, All-Ireland quarterfinals. And obviously, they had a similar scenario to Armagh last year. They obviously went into the preliminary rounds. They got beat, obviously, by Mayo. Like, from a Galway perspective, like can they turn it around from here? Like, could it be? You feel like this is such a massive killer blow for them. Like, and even with the injuries that they have as well, like Damien Comer's obviously not going to be there. Kelly's not going to be there. John Daly, like the injuries are stacking up for Galway. And look, I'd probably still back them to get to a quarter final, in all honesty, but it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, it depends who they get. They always have the home advantage to it. It's next week, so it's a tight game again. You obviously want longer time to get more rest into those players and more recovery time into those who are out. It's just the nature of the beast is where we are at the minute. So they're up against time in that way. I don't think they have a lot of lessons to learn. They were for as I say 55 minutes of the game. They were the better team and by some distance. Their systems work very, very well. Shane Walsh is coming into the game. It wasn't so long ago that we were talk about him being given Kilmacud his best days and that they're all behind him. He was sensational today. I thought his ability on the ball. He actually done a lovely dummy out the left hand side, and the Armagh boy went for it, and he was caught going to the shop. I don't think Galway they'll be disappointed by it because they have to play again next week, but their systems work. It was mistakes. It was two mistakes that cost them 1-1 in such a short period of time. That is as well as maybe 6 or 7 points conceding because of the emotional impact it has upon you. I don't think they're too far off. I don't think they have to tweak much. They just need to learn from it. And if it is that case whereby the short isn't done, you drive it 55 yards up the pitch and allows you at least to get your system set back up again.
And as for Armagh, like obviously straight into the quarterfinals, is this the year they finally kick on, reach the last 4 or possibly more, do you think?
I think with the last 4 definitely didn't reach them. I'm still not convinced that they put it like this. If it wasn't for a Galway mistake today, they weren't going to change their game enough to be able to break Galway down. and that would set alarm bells off in my head, just in the back of it. Darren, you've heard me talk about it before. I think they're a brilliant team. I think they have an abundance of talent in there, not only just in their starting 15, but maybe right up to number 26, 27. Come to knockout football, anything can happen. I just don't know if they had the tactical ability to make the right calls at the right time. If it hadn't been for the 2 mistakes today, we'd be looking at Galway playing next, or having that extra week's rest, and Armagh playing next week.
Yeah, and I suppose another team that is true, obviously from that group, Derry 2-7, Westmeath 9 points. Obviously, this game was yesterday on GA Go, or Saturday, obviously, whenever people are watching this. But generally speaking, like, this was a fairly horrendous game, in all honesty. Like, it was very, very poor. I don't think either side were really at it. Derry might have won the game, but I wouldn't be entirely convinced that Derry have still turned the corner. Like, they were still leaving huge amounts of spaces in behind. Shane McGuigan doesn't seem to look right. Brendan Rodgers doesn't seem to be at his best either. Like, massive win for Derry, but at the same time, like, I think Westmeath left this behind them.
Yeah, and I suppose a massive win. I'd probably say an expected win for Derry, and that was probably about it. That's what got them over the line, that they were expected to win it, because for me it was the worst Derry performance of this year. It was worse than what the Donegal in the Ulster Championship. It was worse than what Armagh was last week, and simply because for me, in Donegal, you were coming up against a well-rehearsed, well-drilled Jim McGuinness team who were almost going to give you a challenge. Donegal played serious football this year. They're up in the Division 1 next year. Last week in Armagh, you have what should have been for me the Ulster champions playing against, that were where we're at. And Westmeath, with the greatest respect to Westmeath, I watched them against Antrim this year, and I thought it was I put it up. I thought it was a 10-point game in it, simply because of what I've seen of Westmeath this year, and that's even against Down in the league final. Derry should be blowing Westmeath out of the water. Derry, if you can go and beat Dublin in Croke Park in a Division 1 final, albeit it mightn't have been the fully cooked Dublin team, but even at that, you should be coming and beating teams like Westmeath, with the greatest respect to them, by 10 points. They looked extremely flat. Shane McGuigan, yeah. Emmett Bradley, I thought, had a decent enough game. Cian McFall, I thought, had an okay game. I don't think he was brilliant. I think he was driving things, but I don't think he was brilliant. It was almost like everything was just too lateral. Everything was too lateral, coming across instead of being direct. Paul Cassidy, again, for me, just doesn't do enough going forward. He'll keep on cutting back. And maybe whenever they were fully engaged last year or this year, they were creating numbers, they were creating overlaps. You can afford to cut back for a foot or two and give the ball off, because you know that McCluskey or so's coming off you, or Baker's coming off you. I just thought that Derry were the worst I've seen of them so far this year.
Yeah, no, I'd agree as well. I think I think they've gotten worse, really, like, per game, and I don't know whether it's confidence, whether it's tactics, or whatever it was. Like, I mean, against Donegal, I agreed with you. I didn't think they were that bad, to be honest with you. Like, they still scored, I think, 17 points that day. They still played very well. Galway, they went down to 14 men. You could see they were trying. It was just they came up against a very good Galway side. Armagh, they fallen apart, and then in this game as well, like, attacking wise, they just couldn't create anything at all. Like, they scored their first point from play in the 16th minute. In the final 20 minutes, they only scored one score as well, and that was the Emmett Bradley goal. So, like, they were very, very poor. And luckily enough for them, like, Westmeath weren't much better. Like, they missed huge amount of chances, particularly in the first half.
Yeah, like, I think that we talk about Derry and they're hitting 28, 30 shots a game. You hit 50% on 30 shots, still gives you 15 scores. They hit 9 scores yesterday. They hit 9 scores on Saturday against Westmeath. That's nowhere good enough. Like, the thing was, they had the opportunity. There was a lot of shots dropped short, wrong decisions on that, but they seemed to try to overcook the goose far too often. They seemed to try and go for goals an awful lot, and just wasn't paying out for them. I don't want to say luck wasn't on their side, because Westmeath have thought, whenever it came to that sort of self-defence, done well against Derry. But I don't know why they just didn't start taking over scores early and just keep it going, instead of trying to find the back of the onion bag every single time.
Can they turn it around though, Derry, from here? Like, I mean, they don't seem to be getting better. Obviously, we'll see with with the draw and everything else, like who they end up getting. And look, it's going to be a storyline either way. They're going to get Louth, Tyrone, or Mayo, so it's not going to be an easy one from a Derry perspective. But, like, can they turn it around from here? Because it's you know, like they do look like they're getting worse instead of better.
It depends who they get back. You know, where Ma was saying in the group, they've only 23 players. For a senior football team, they only have 23 players. Is mad. I don't know why they haven't went to the depths of the under-20 team and started putting players up in there just to fill that panel out even. And of the players that they are bringing on, you know, I think they gave two young lads their debut yesterday in the championship. You know, it comes into a crunch game. It's there. It's almost like that's probably the biggest lesson for me is that they haven't had enough players getting regular game time. Again, hindsight, I would have just struck the Armagh game off and said, look, we're not winning that one. Let's give players play game time and let's try and change something up. But that's all well and good in hindsight. And so, can they change it? They could do it against Tyrone. They could do it against Louth. They'll not do it against Mayo on the performance Mayo put in today. If they draw Mayo out, it's a challenge for them. There's nobody in Derry at the minute who can go with Ryan O'Donoghue. The way he played football today was absolutely sensational. If you think about putting on Chrissy McCaig on him, Chrissy McCaig will not stay with him. You know, he's an engine on him, he's up and down that pitch. And then if you're talking about having maybe like a big, and that's another thing, lacking in Derry, you put in O'Shea in the full forward there, who's going to pick him up? Who is physically big enough to try and pick up Aidan O'Shea? They can they turn it around? They can if the draw is easy for them, but I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, like look, obviously we're pre-recording this, so I'm sure maybe by the time people are listening to this, they'll know, you know, what the draw is and how it's all shaping up. But yeah, like if they got Mayo, I'd be very, very worried for them, to be honest with you. And even against Louth and Tyrone, like it's, you know, if those two are ordinary games, fair enough. But like the fact that those two, obviously, you know, there's a bit of history there with Mickey Hart and everything. There does feel like there's a lot on the line. We'll just have a look here at Group 2 and how things finished up here. So Dublin have qualified with the draw that they got today against Mayo as the group winners and go straight into the quarterfinals. Mayo with 5 points into the preliminary quarterfinals, and Roscommon are going in there as well as the third place team with 2 points. And Cavan exit the championship. You'll see the results there. Cavan 120, Roscommon 320, Dublin 17 points, Mayo 17 points. And I suppose we'll start with the game that took place today. Mayo 17 points, Dublin 17. I suppose as a neutral, first of all, like, I mean, especially after so many drab games really in the last couple of weeks, like what did it feel like to watch a game of football that was actually high end and I suppose had some sort of meaning? Like,
yeah, it was great, and both teams went at it. You know, both teams went, and Mayo in particular, Mayo went for it. I think it was almost a case of the mindset could have been, listen, we'll play a bit here, but see, we might meet Dublin later on down the lane and might sort of keep our powder dry for that. But they certainly didn't do that. I thought that from the get-go, you know, it was almost like a point for a point. It was almost like just a pure shooter. Ryan O'Donoghue was brilliant. Costello was brilliant. Aidan O'Shea was brilliant. Kieran Kilkenny for that catch at the end was fantastic. Stephen Cluxton, I thought he was trying to find the M50 again. He went up that pitch about 3 or 4 times in the second half that he hasn't done all year. I just thought it was a great spectacle of football that went on there. Even the athleticism. There was a couple of times actually Dublin towards the end. We talk about, you know, players being able to decelerate the pace. The cameraman couldn't even keep up with some of them Dublin players away. They just put the brakes on, and the cameraman went on past him. He was away again the other side. I thought it was a brilliant game of football. Probably didn't deserve. There could have been a couple of goals in it. I think Dublin could have maybe got a couple of goals in it, but the right option at the time was probably taken just to tick it over. Maybe bar the Jack McCaffrey one where Mannion was on the far post. That was, I think you mentioned it, Aaron, it's typical. That was a Dublin one just to be hand over a flick into the back of net. But yeah, both lived to fight another day. I heard the commentary out there saying Kevin McStay looked like he was furious. He says, like, I'm not, you know, we know that we now matched them. It was the best Mayo performance all year. I think Mayo can take a lot of credit from where they are. We talking on with John saying, you know, so far with Mayo, it's been, they're not performing, but they're getting the wins, which you can't really ask an awful lot for them. Today, they performed, didn't get the win, but you're coming up against one of the best in the game.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing, like, and I suppose we'll get onto Dublin in a moment. Like, we know how good Dublin are, like, we know they're one of the favourites and everything else, obviously, for the All-Ireland. We probably didn't really know where Mayo were at coming into this game because throughout the league, it felt like they were just tipping along, like a few narrow wins here and there. they obviously burnt themselves quite heavily last season. And I think it's been very evident that this year they've been trying to, I suppose, keep themselves back a little bit. They weren't particularly brilliant against Roscommon a couple of weeks ago, but today, like, they were absolutely brilliant. Like Ryan O'Donoghue, as you said, outstanding. Jack Kearney, I thought, was very, very good. Tommy Conroy looked more like the Tommy Conroy sort of pre-injury. So, like, where does this leave Mayo now in the sort of All-Ireland reckoning? Because no one's really put them in that bracket. No one's really had them in the mix. Like, are they in the mix now after a performance like this?
I personally don't think so. I think that you would need to see a wee bit more. You need to see the next game on them as well. You can talk about, ticking along. They have been ticking along, but have been very underwhelming even whenever they're getting their wins. Today they performed. It's how they do next week. It's what that they can do it next week and put on performance they got again. Brilliant. But we talk about where teams are really good and then they blip, they drop down. It's just inverted for Mayo at this stage. They've been okay and they've so far just blipped. It's a spike in terms of the trend that they were doing. Now what they have to do is go out next week. If they can match that performance next week, it then adds a wee bit more cement around about that sound.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I suppose, like, probably what they will be kicking really is the end. Like, obviously the Kilkenny catch and the quick movement. I mean, is that Mayo's downfall at the same time, though, is the game management? I think it's been heavily questioned, obviously, throughout Mayo's golden years, really, of getting to All-Ireland finals in the last sort of 10, 15 years or so, that game management in big moments when they're in front, they struggle with that. And look, we saw that against Galway in the Connacht final. And I think we saw a bit of it today. Like, obviously, they're all, pressing up on Kilkenny, obviously, when the kick out's taken, when really, like, they probably should have all gotten back inside their own 45. Because it felt like maybe it was a bit too easy for Dublin. Although it was a really, really well-worked move, it was probably a little bit too easy for Dublin to get that point when Mayo had scored that point to put themselves in front. Like, Dublin only had 30 seconds to level the game.
Well, that's the difference. It's that time. The time element is the big difference there. Can you drop back, allow Dublin to kick it to your cornerback and give them 30 seconds to work up the pitch? The problem is you don't know how. I know the referee blew it almost straight away after, but at that stage you don't know whether he's playing just the 30 seconds or he's another minute on it. And you look at like Armagh in the past whereby they've been in front that point and they've dropped off with a minute to go or so and the team's up the other instead of pressing on trying to turn that over. I think it was just that Kilkenny done really well to field the ball and McCaffrey was like a scalded cat. He's been doing that since he came on. The game, if it's more as a commentator during the game, he said he's just seen a blur of blue and it was McCaffrey going past. That speed, very, very hard to stop. Would you drop off? Maybe knowing if there's definitely only 30 seconds left, yes, we would. But I would, if it was me, and actually, if you seen McStay, McStay was calling to come back.
Yeah,
I don't know why he was like get out and get back or drop back. If it was me, I hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I would have done the press. I would have went with how Mayo went. I can't say I would have done anything different from.
Yeah, I suppose, because look, I mean, if they had won the ball, like, that's it, it's game over. Like, Mayo probably would have went down the other end and got another point, and we'd be talking about a 2-point Mayo win. So probably would have been different. But like, from a Dublin perspective, I don't think it was the best Dublin we've saw. I think defensively they were absolutely solid. They were brilliant in the first half, as we saw. Like, Brian Fenton, that challenge, and Ryan O'Donoghue was unbelievable. Costello was obviously brilliant, but like, I don't think it was the best sort of Dublin we've saw all year. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think that Kilkenny was in it. You need a Kieran Kilkenny playing to his standards each and every game. I thought Brian Howe were pretty quiet throughout the game as well. Yeah, I don't think Dublin were fantastic, and maybe they were uncomfortable being at a Croke Park. But there's a few chances that they were in there, and if it was a Croke Park, they would have been more ruthless. They would have been more ruthless and getting those goals that came about. I think there's more left in the locker for Dublin. I don't think that's Dublin's season peaked. I think there's more left in the locker for them to come in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there certainly is, and I think maybe there was an element of Dublin being sort of caught out and maybe being surprised with how good Mayo were. In fairness, and there probably was a degree of uncomfortability about the environment Dublin were playing in today. Maybe, in fairness, Roscommon, they're through. They beat Cavan 320 to 120. So Cavan have or Roscommon have obviously salvaged a bit of their season and obviously getting a 6-point win. So yeah, look, massive win for the Rossies, and Jesus, like a fairly high scoring game. This
Massive, massive, and that's I only seen one goal on sort of Twitter, and it went for a point and it dropped into the back end of net for Roscommon. I biased towards that actually being reflective of the game. I don't know whether that scoreline is a full reflection of the game, but yeah, I think again I thought it would have been a close game. Two scores in it is what you tend to look at. Goals, you can't really predict goals or whatever comes off it. Cavan have obviously, without Paddy Lynch, done extremely well to be hitting 120. You know, their main marksman. So it shows that Cavan aren't the one string bow. You know, they do have other players there who, when required, can step up, and that'll do them good stead for next year. Back in Division 2 next year. Give it another crack. Paddy Lynch will be back in next year, and those players who've hit those scores yesterday, maybe it'll build a bit of confidence in them. Roscommon haven't hit the score. That's a cricket score in terms of Roscommon. You know, 320 in the game. Roscommon, I think their biggest score so far this year was maybe not 15, not 16. So to be hitting 23 scores in a game is massive for them. But surprised by Davy Burke's comments after the game to say, look, we're in the hat and we hit the big numbers there, but 120 to concede is a hell of an amount of scores to concede as well. So although I don't think Roscommon are a bad team, I just don't know why he came out and says that. You know, out of the Mayo game, the Dublin game, they were the ones who just beat Cavan. The rest of them were well clear of them. So I think he probably would have just said, look, it was another win, let's move on. I don't know why he's putting a target on Roscommon's back.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think at this stage, like, it might be, it might be maybe a good idea for someone to say, maybe don't do your interview today, or maybe stay away or something, because he always seems to be saying something at the end of the game, and there always seems to be headlines, and like, you feel like it's taken away from what's a huge win for the Rossies. You know, a 6-point win, and look, obviously, was it a great performance? Obviously, only he knows and everything else, but. Like 320 in total, like German Murtha with 1-6, Ultan Harney with 1-1, Enda Smith getting a big goal, obviously, for the Rossies as well. And like, look, it'll be tough for them to get to the quarterfinals, but they're there, they are in the hat. But as you said before, like, he does seem to come out with some mad comments, Davy Burke, like in post-match interviews.
Yeah, it seems to be almost that you're talking more about Davy Burke than you are about Roscommon every week. I don't think Roscommon are a bad team. I think they've struggled this year to string two halves of football together. Maybe yesterday they did do that. The hit score, 23 scores in a game is brilliant. It's class. But yeah, look here, just say it's another win. We're lucky enough to be here. I haven't performed this year, but we get another day out and leave it at that.
Yeah, it's a little bit mad, all right. And yeah, like, it will be interesting, obviously, to see who they get in the next round as well. Just on Cavan, like, obviously disappointing the way their season is obviously finished up with 3 defeats, but like, overall, I think they can take some positives from this year. In fairness, like, stayed up in Division 2, win versus Monaghan, nearly beat Tyrone, obviously, in the championship as well. Paddy Lynch injury did derail them. There's no doubt about that, but overall, like, a positive enough season for Cavan.
Yeah, I think for Ray's first year in, they're always. I think there's always almost like a bounce factor whenever you have a new management come in. But he was at one stage pushing for promotion to Division 1. Then once that was derailed, he sort of took his foot off the gas and focused on Monaghan. It was a brilliant performance to get the win against Monaghan. The push Tyrone the whole way, who then went on to push Donegal the whole way as well. Yeah, nothing but positives from them. I think that they were always up against it to come into this group, particularly when you think you have Dublin in it and Mayo, who on their day can put in, as we've seen today, can put in serious performances. They were looking like it was always going to be Roscommon was the one they were always going to try and catch out. That was always going to be the one who was going to be close enough to them, but just on the day that they haven't got the scores they needed to get over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. No, look, I think there is a lot to be positive about from a Cavan perspective, in fairness, and it should be interesting to see how they get on in Division 2 next season. Looking at Group 3, so this is how things have finished up here. Donegal are straight through to the quarterfinals. Tyrone and Cork both finished with 4 points as well, but the score difference there for Donegal is what makes the difference. And you'll see the results there clear. 5 points, Donegal 223, Cork 17 points, Tyrone 118. I suppose we'll start with the Tyrone win. They got over the line against Cork in the end. Like, it wasn't easy. There was a few moments in the first half where it looked like maybe Cork were going to kick on and they had the game by the scruff of the neck. But definitely the black card, obviously a huge turning point for Chris Oak-Jones, and Tyrone really took over after that, and I suppose pressed on and won the game.
Yeah, I think even at the start, Brian Hurley being missing for Cork's massive. It was massive for them. But they were never going to get the easy scores, not the easy scores, but the way they were able to sit back and hold off Donegal for so long and then catch him on the counter attack. Tyrone don't play that style of football. They'll always Tyrone have better defenders, than what Donegal have. Donegal almost start with three half backs or three half forwards in their half back line. That sort of stay there. They're an attacking team. So there was never going to be on that. But Cork, yeah, they needed to be a wee bit further ahead, getting in at half time, taking more of the opportunities coming. Once the black card happened, there was almost no way back for them, but they did manage to claw back at stage. I think there was 6 or 7 points, 6 points on it at one stage, and Cork almost rallied. But the goal just is the sinker. Unless you're going to create goal chances regularly, you're not going to get them in the back of the net.
Yeah, I suppose it does feel like a bit of a killer blow for Cork. They obviously, I suppose, had such a huge moment, obviously beating Donegal, and I suppose it's maybe a little bit unfortunate as to how this group has obviously finished up with 3 teams on 4 points, but obviously going into them prelims now as the away team after such a heavy defeat, potentially Brian Hurley as well. It is such a momentum killer for Cork.
It is, but they will build on the fact they beat Donegal and they have run Tyrone within 2 scores away from home, black card, and without their key talisman. I don't know the injury situation with Brian Hurley, whether he's back next week or not, but you'd have to imagine it's a no. The fact he didn't strip out at all yesterday, you'd have to imagine it's a no. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. But yeah, I think Cork will be building something. I liked them last year, and I racing them against Derry, albeit they were well beat. But I like the football they were trying to play that day. And again, it goes back to that draw. I'm not sure who they'll pick up, but away from home, do we get the same Cork that we get in Cork? Not even Park and Queeve, because they haven't had great luck there. But yeah, I think going on the road is going to be a big challenge for them. And then next week, there's all the talk whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday. I think Cork will be praying for it to be Sunday, just that extra day of recovery and rest.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose for Tyrone, obviously they'll be, I suppose, going into the same stage as well. Again, it's kind of, I suppose, hard to know where they're at. There is a lot of inconsistency there. They do seem to be getting over the line. I think Rory Canavan was excellent, 2 points. Dara Canavan obviously with 5 as well. And even when Con Kilpatrick goes off with the red card, they still kind of manage the game really well. In fairness, even at that point. So, look, Tyrone will take a lot of positives going into the next round, and they probably are one of the second place teams you definitely wouldn't want to face off against.
No, particularly going to Omagh. Omag's a den for them. It's a fortress for them. They have started to bring in some of those under 20s as well. They bulk out their squad a wee bit. I think 2 of them even got game time yesterday as well. But yeah, they're starting to build a team in and around about that, and they're doing it in a very successful way. To finish second in the group, get a home draw in the preliminary quarterfinal is a massive achievement for them. Particularly whenever you think about Matty Donnelly, who was again brilliant yesterday. Think about the year that he's had. You think about the losses that Tyrone have, because there's no way that in Tyrone football, it's probably like many counties, Tyrone don't have the best footballers at club level playing for their county team for whatever reason. Whatever reason that is. But they need to get younger players too, and they're doing it the right way as opposed to Derry, who aren't bleeding anybody through really. Tyrone are bleeding them in the right way for it. So it'll do them world of good. You see Niall Morgan's impact on the game. He scored a point for play yesterday as well. They'll be a challenge for any team. Although I do think if they meet Derry, which everybody's I think the tickets are already being printed at the minute for Mickey Hart versus Tyrone. I think that Derry could beat them in Omagh.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, it could be very interesting if that was to come about. In fairness, and obviously Donegal, they are through as well. They beat Clare 223 to 5 points. Bit of a resounding scoreline, really, for a championship game and everything else. 24-point win. I mean, goodness me! Clare only scored 1 point in the first half, and interesting enough, that was in the opening couple of minutes as well. Donegal then hit 111 without reply before the end of the first half. So, yeah, Jesus, pretty grim if you're a Clare fan, but Donegal back on track.
Yeah, Clare, it's a very disappointing end for their year. after the loss of so many key players this year, a new manager coming in, they actually started off pretty poorly, but they came about and they had a good run in the league towards the end of it. They obviously pushed Kerry for a good bit in the Munster Championship too, but yeah, they could beat by 24 points in the last game of the season to be extremely disappointed from. I suppose they can take heed from the fact there was a Donegal team who were seething probably after getting beat by Cork the week before. But as for Donegal, we got the Donegal, it seems that Ryan McHugh is back to form. If Ryan McHugh's playing well, Donegal are playing well. That type of way. I think he came away about 1-2 yesterday. Paddy McBeardy again, Gallen, they're an out and out attacking team, so the scoreline doesn't surprise me. They've racked up big scores all year, especially in the league. They hit big scores as well. So yeah, we don't know anything different about Donegal. That's not going to make or break their season. They're not now certainly the second best team or the first best team in the country. They're playing against the team that they should beat, but they've done it very, very well.
Yeah, it's one of them scenarios really where you can't really read too much in it from a Donegal perspective. Like I think we all expected it to be fairly comfortable. Now, did we expect it to be that comfortable? Probably not, but yeah, look, a very, very resounding win there for a Donegal perspective. Group 4 looks a little bit like this. So Kerry are straight through to the quarterfinals. They beat Louth obviously today. Louth are through in second position, only just in the end. It was actually quite a close scenario with the score difference there. Monaghan finishing third, Meath finished bottom. It was Louth 110, Kerry 221, and it was Meath 114, Monaghan 117. I suppose firstly, massive win for Kerry. Not gonna lie though, wasn't expecting it to be that convincing. I thought, having saw Louth against Dublin, I thought they would have given Kerry a bit more of a game, but yeah, fairly comfortable win here for Kerry.
Yeah, one of the games where you wouldn't mind seeing it. So again, I don't know what it is with Loud. Loud never seem to get their games on TV. But it was one of the games where you probably would have liked to go back and watch to see where Kerry are, what way Loud performed, because it is a massive score. Particularly when you think that Loud had put it up to Dublin. They drew with Monaghan last week onto it. They beat Meath. You thought Louth were coming good, but to get a hammer like that is a surprise. For Kerry, I suppose Kerry hitting 221 in any game is massive. You see, I think Clifford came away with 0-7 on the day or so. Diarmuid O'Connor has got his goal, who's been getting a bit of a hard time this year in terms of around about midfield, and if he's the right person in there for midfield. So again, does a massive shot in the arm for Kerry. They've an extra week off and they'll go away and relax and chill out and get back on the horse maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday night, knowing that they're under no pressure this weekend. They will be able to look and see who they probably face. It'd be interesting to see whether Oisin McConville thinks Kerry are now contenders, given a couple of weeks ago he says they've no chance of winning.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah, it'll be. I don't know. I think after saying something like that, I think you nearly need to double down on it. Like, I think if he starts backtracking, like he'd probably look silly, but probably silly enough to say that in the first place. To be honest with you,
who calls Kerry out 8 weeks before the All Ireland final, All Ireland semi final? Again, there's more left in Kerry than that. There's more left in Dublin. These two teams are building nicely.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit bizarre comments. In fairness, like for Louth though, I mean, should they take any concern from such a heavy beating as you said? Like it's a bit of a strange one. Like they're going into a home preliminary game next week. Like there's a massive chance for them to get to an all on a quarter final, which obviously they haven't been to in I don't know how long. Don't know if they've ever gotten to a quarter final, to be honest. Maybe since obviously the quarterfinals were introduced. So like it's a massive opportunity for them obviously next week. And like this was a heavy enough defeat.
Yeah, I suppose it depends who they meet next week. If it is a Derry, for example, they'll need to do some soul searching. They will be thinking, yes, Derry's there for the taking, but they'll also be remembering that Derry beat Kerry in the league this year. And that's you'd be sort of worried in case a scalded cat comes out or a wounded animal comes out in Derry. But yeah, without seeing the game, it's very hard to make any comments on it. But something wasn't right with them, and I don't think Louth to be a team to just simply down tools and not give up and just give up. I know they have an injury sort of worry there, but it'll take some lifting to bring them in to be ready for next week.
Yeah.
No matter who they face next week, they're going to be underdogs, even though it's at home.
Yeah, no, they will be, obviously, given the nature of obviously how far they've come in recent seasons. Other game, Meath 114, Monaghan 117. Suppose turned out to be a bit of a closer game, obviously, towards the end. Like, Meath had a fairly decent enough finish. Like, they think they scored like 6 of the last 7 scores in the entire game. So I think Louth fans can probably thank Meath in the end for helping them obviously get into the second position with the score difference and everything else. But Monaghan, massive win, their first win since they beat Dublin on the opening day of the league. So big for them to stop the rot.
Yeah, stop the rats. Probably just taking a few splinters out. I don't think that it's a reflection upon Monaghan. Have turned a corner or anything like that. Meath are not a brilliant team. They play a type of football that allows you to get at them. You think that Antrim pushed them very close last year, Down pushed them very close in Tailteann Cup, and they haven't really kicked on from that at all. So for a team who played Division 1 this year, a team who in the past have always been considered challengers for Ulster, it's not, it's a win, but that's probably about it. They go out, they'll live to fight another day. And Monaghan, can they get a win in a preliminary quarter final that brings them into a proper quarter final? Maybe they could. Maybe that would be the shot in the arm that they need for their season to be on a high, but I can't see it. I think everybody and their granny will be praying to get Monaghan in this draw tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think, yeah, like it's obviously hard to know. Like, and obviously when we catch the highlights and everything else, we'll see this game obviously in a bit more detail. But probably still a massive win for them to get over the line. And I suppose for Cormac, Rourke and Meath, like I don't know. Like, obviously we saw Glenn Ryan leave Kildare, and like I was looking at Cormac Rourke's post-match interview, and he's nearly hinting that he could be on the way as well. So it's hard to really know where Meath go from here.
Yeah, I suppose who goes in? Is there somebody ready made to come in to step up to that post within Meath? Very hard to know. Although that's not a very common thing that GA does. They wouldn't sort of have someone sitting in the background taking a team on maybe Main or under 20, and Jack Connor done for Kerry, but they wouldn't have someone like that maybe ready to step up into the post of it. But yeah, his comments they're bizarre in a way, because he seems to me that he's obviously a very smart man. He's an intelligent man. He doesn't he's very evident and saying, I'm not the smartest, but I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. But he has stuck to his guns an awful lot in terms of the style of football he wants Meath to play. Whether Meath actually want to play that, maybe the players aren't enjoying it. Maybe they're saying they're not getting the benefit of it. But then he's calling out quite often, we don't have the David Cliffords, we don't have the ability. And that's probably true. But do you come out and say that after a match?
Yeah.
Don't think so. They're just, it's only saying, everybody knows that you're not a Kerry. Everybody knows you're not a Dublin. Antrim and here, we know that we're not going to ever compete with your Dublins or your Kerrys of this world. But you know where your level's at. And should they be going out and beating Monaghan? Monaghan is team on decline? Yeah, they should be.
Yeah, like I think it's one of them where, like, Meath, they do have a lot of young players, they do have a lot of young talent, but whether they can get the right coach, the right setup, the right things behind the scenes, I think that's the big focus now for Meath moving forward. And speaking obviously of Kildare, we mentioned them there. We'll obviously run through the games in the Tailteann Cup. So start with the match obviously today. Kildare 12 points, Laois 2-11. Don't think anybody really predicted this, given that Laois struggled against New York last week, and obviously Kildare have had a very turbulent season. But they did show some sort of renaissance of form, obviously, in the groups. But yeah, this was big win for Laois. I was watching this on GA Go earlier, and to be honest with you, like, Laois could have nearly beat them by more as well.
I've only watched the first sort of 20 minutes of it. I have to go back and watch the rest of it. But yeah, I was totally surprised by it. I was chatting to someone just this morning about, Antrim and who they get in the next round and stuff like that. I said, like, obviously, we'd love to get Laois, because I don't think we'd be up there with Kildare. Just the way Kildare rightfully respected the competition and played, the competition as it should be played. Not a lot of players left or anything like that. But yeah, you would have expected, although it's been a turbulent year for Kildare, you would have expected them to beat Laois, and that's no disrespect to Laois. That's just watching the highlights from last week against New York, where New York were unlucky not to win last week. I know the send off didn't help Laois, and they done well for the sort of last 15 minutes with down to 14 men. But even at that, if Kildare were playing New York, you would expect them to win by a cricket score. So yeah, but fair play to Laois. Look, I'll not speak too soon. Antrim obviously meet them next week in Croke Park. Don't know what day it is, but we'll see what that one is. Antrim will need to be on their A game. I think Laois are totally unpredictable, but if you're beating Kildare quite handy and should have been more, then you're always one to watch out for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and obviously Glenn Ryan, I suppose, since announced that he'd be leaving his post as Kildare manager. I suppose no real surprise given how bad the league was. Like, obviously lost every game in Division 2, and beaten quite comfortably in this game as well. Like, it's hard to really know where Kildare football go from here. Like, do they go for an outside man? Maybe they give Davy Burke's phone a call. Like, if he ends up leaving Roscommon or something, I don't know what would happen there, but it's very hard to know where they go from here. Like, you feel like there's massive work that needs to be done with this team. Like, and don't get me wrong, they've got a good base there. They've got good young players, but for whatever reason, like, a lot of those young players aren't even playing for this Kildare team, and they don't want to play for them, which is mad.
Yeah, look, I don't think, and I think Glenn Ryan, to be fair to me, he was quite diplomatic in his comments in the game, and saying that he was stepping down. I think stepping down straight after is probably the best thing to do, because it just stops the county board, it stops him, it stops the team getting this sort of prolonged what's he going to do, what's he not going to do sort of thing, and social media kicking off. But just be mindful, like, Glenn, man, cracking footballer, he's very clear. I didn't get the best out of the players, and it's as simple as that. He's also saying that there is better players in Kildare who are not putting their hands up to come and play for their football team, which is obviously a concern as well. What's going on within Kildare, that you aren't getting your best players onto the field of play for whatever reason that is. Do they go outside? I don't know. I don't think Davy Burke will go in. I know Davy Burke was whispered of going into Kildare before and was almost getting ratified, and then at that time it was some of the older players who are not there anymore says no, we don't want Davy Burke. So I can't see him going near the job either. I don't know who to go for. I don't think I heard McConville was maybe hushed about it. I don't know. I think that if Oisin went for it, he would need to. It would probably be a winner for him, to be honest, because they will be expected to get a Division 2 next year, or Division 3 next year. They'll be expected to get a Division 3 next year. But he'll need to, if Oisin McConville is going to, you need to start building a team around him of good coaches, good defensive coaches, good forward coaches. That's going on. He obviously can't lift what he had in workload, because I think it was only really him and Mark Dornan, and then all the rest were inside men as well. So yeah, I don't know where Kildare go. They will obviously be sourcing outside for a while. This will be not news to them. The county board will have sounded out a few people, or at least put people's names up on a board to see would they be interested in going for the job. We'll probably hear maybe before the summer's out of who actually is appointed. It'll be a quick one, I reckon.
Yeah, no, it is interesting, all right. But look, I do have to give Laois credit. Like, Mark Barry won 2, Evan O'Carroll won 1 there. They're obviously playing yourselves in the next game. You beat Fermanagh 111 to 11 points. So I suppose a bit of a surprise win this one as well in some ways. Like, given Fermanagh had also won their group, and it was obviously hard to really know where Antrim are at. But huge win, and I suppose, look, massive opportunity for either yourselves or Laois now to get to a Tailteann Cup final, which I don't think anyone really would have predicted a couple of weeks ago.
No, definitely no. Look, I said last week, Aaron, I thought Antrim would push him close. I thought there wouldn't be much into it. I didn't see Antrim winning. I think actually I did put down, I think that on all the stats, Antrim would hit 111, but I had Fermanagh down to hit 113. At half time, they were 0-8 to 0-2. And I was going, Jesus, Mother and St. Joseph, what happened? Where's Antrim going here? And he makes 3 changes, and about 10 minutes in the second half, and the game turns around. There is talent in Antrim. Like, I've no doubt that if Andy McEntee gets the strongest 15 out next week starting, and then actually gives players who need the chance the opportunity to play, Antrim will win. But there's still big question marks over why he's not playing his best 15. Why our player like Pat Shivers is one of the best players in the county. He's sitting in that panel. I'm sure he's livid. He's from what I hear, he's making an absolute menace out of all the defenders in training. Pat's 6'2", 6'3", maybe, of pure muscle. He's a great footballer. I don't know why he's not getting a sniff in there. Antrim definitely have the ability to beat Laois, the players to beat Laois, but it all comes down to actually McEntee. I think he got lucky yesterday. I do think he got lucky yesterday.
Mm. Yeah, like it was a little bit mad, like looking, like as you said, like 8 points to 2. Like Antrim hit 2 points in the first half, and then Fermanagh hit 3 points in the second half. So like I wonder, like, what on earth happened there? Was there just a fierce breeze, like in Brewster Park, or what on earth happened? Because a little bit of a bizarre scenario, really. Only 5 points scored, and at that end in the entire game.
I was talking to Niall Burns, or Shawnee Burns, Niall Burns' dad. Niall Burns came on yesterday for about 10 minutes. But I was talking to him last night, Nasda. Saturdays are a nightmare for me, so I didn't get down to it. And I was like, Jesus, what was going on? He says, I don't know how Fermanagh didn't win the game. He says they had more than enough opportunities to win the game, they just didn't. And Antrim were completely physically put out of it in the first half. They were bullied in the first half, is what he said to me. He says that they were just physically, Fermanagh were far better than them. They intimidated Antrim, and they made sure that Rory McCann wasn't getting the ball, that Ram McQuillan was getting well marshalled into it. And then the second half, they just came out and changed the game. The 4 players come on. Connor Ham, they brought on. He's from St John's Club. Connor's a great footballer. You're not bully Connor. He's only 21, I think, 22. But he is, again, over 6 foot. He's put a stone of muscle on him in the last sort of 6 months. He's a tank of a player, and he's just an athlete. Do not catch him in order to bully him. He's that type of player. Peter Healy, come on, hasn't played all year. Got 2 points. The 3 subs he made were the change into the game. I think Adam got maybe 5 or 6 points off the bench. And it shows you Mick Byrne, actually their keeper. He was the one that set the goal up. He was that far advanced up the pitch. He set Cathal Hines up for his goal. But yeah, there was nothing. I was looking at it and like, someone tell me, was there a gale force wind? There was nothing. I seen a couple of the videos just at the end of the game, and the flags were flat. There was no wind at all that was going around about it. But that was my
Yeah,
first thing. I was going, Jesus, what's going on here? There must have been an absolute gale
yeah,
left or right.
yeah, a little bit.
But look here, great win for Antrim. Played it. We'll get a wee day in Croke Park next week.
Yeah, would you be confident of beating Laois?
If he gets to me, is McEntee a good manager or is he a lucky manager? I think he got luck on his side yesterday. If he can't do that, like you have to, he mustn't. I don't know whether he doesn't know his strongest 15. You, if Antrim are give it a real good go, they need their strongest players on the pitch. Now the problem is he can probably do the exact same as he done this week and beat Laois, because Laois, or you can't predict what Laois is going to turn up. But I don't think you can risk it. I think you need to have your strongest 15 players on the pitch with 2 or 3 equally as good ready to come onto the pitch. And unless he does that, there's still question marks for him. And he might win next week as well, but that'll always be the question mark sitting on the top. And I just don't know why you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, it will be interesting. Look, it's a great opportunity for Antrim, great opportunity, obviously, for Laois as well. The other 2 teams that progress, Sligo 220, Limerick 9 points, very comfortable win there for Sligo, and down 118, Wicklow 12 points. So yeah, 2 fairly comfortable enough victories there for both Down and Sligo.
Yeah, and both probably would have been expected to be as comfortable as well. I think Down probably would have been maybe wanting a wee bit more. I know that sounds stupid coming on the back of a 9-point win, but I think Down would have probably wanted a wee bit more out of them. Not 12 probably isn't a huge amount to concede, but I know Conor Offaly wouldn't want to concede that against Wicklow, especially at home.
Yeah, I suppose before we finish up then, player of the week, moment of the week, what would you be thinking?
Pretty hard. I think that Stella was good. I thought Ryan O'Donoghue was brilliant today. I have to say, my moment of the week, I don't think it's clipped online. I can never clip anything off our tape. It was the black screen of death. But that wee dummy out in the left hand side from Shane Walsh, I don't think anyone caught up onto it. It was a cracker for me. I would love to watch it again. But I think O'Donoghue. I think Ryan O'Donoghue was a player of the week for me. Just being able to not drag Mayo, because there was other players stepped up for him, but he was picking ball up on the 21. He was picking ball up on Dublin's 21, his own 21. I just thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, I think I'll be completely biased here. I think I'll go player of the week, Costello. 7 points, outstanding. And look, if it wasn't for him, we would have lost today. And then in terms of moment of the week, I would have to look like that catch for Kieran Kilkenny was, like again, like how many times do we talk about Dublin players doing big things and big moments, and it's everyone always talks about the risk reward. It seems to be always risk with Dublin in the big moments, but they get the reward. So Yeah, I think I'd go with that catch. In fairness, well, yeah. Cheers, anyone who tuned in. If you could hit the like button and subscribe, that'd be absolutely great. Make sure to check out the GA Sports Tracker app, obviously, as well when you get a chance. And until the next one, catch you all again.